Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekend Word. And since this Sunday is Mother's Day, this word is specifically dedicated to all the ladies out there. Hopefully over these next few minutes, you can learn something, be encouraged and inspired to run after all that God has created us to be. And I know in this quarantine season, we've been telling lots of stories about JC. That's because she is the spunkiness and the fun in our family. And this week we have been teaching her how to swim. And she has been very hesitant just to jump in the pool all by herself. And we just sit back and we try to encourage her. And I find myself telling her this, that you can do it. You're brave and you're strong and you're fierce. And as I was preparing for this word, that word fierce kept coming to my mind. And as I began to think about it, fierce is something that I very much want to raise my daughter to be. I want her to be fierce, but not in the world standards, which says it's an aggressive intensity. I want her to be fierce in everything that the Lord has called her to be. A fierce boldness and courageousness to run after everything that God has created her to be. So this weekend word is titled Fierce. And I say that because I have the same heart and desire for each one of us ladies out there to be fierce wives, businesswomen, sisters, mothers, whatever role or whatever hat you play in your life. I want us to live it out and walk it out with the fierceness and boldness and courageousness to be everything that God created us to be. And as I started thinking about this concept, God led me to a story of two ladies who lived out this fierceness in their call in life. And these two ladies were midwives, and their story is told in Exodus chapter 1, verse 15. And a little backstory of that time is the Pharaoh, which was the king over Egypt at the time, had given orders to kill some of the Hebrew slave baby boys. And this was because he was becoming jealous of their growth and their power. So he gave the order for them to kill them. So if you see in Exodus 1, chapter 15, or verse 15, the ladies responded in this way to his order. They said, "The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let these little boys live." And then if you read later on, the story continues where one of those very little boys that they chose not to kill and they chose to save ended up becoming Moses, who he was the one, if you know the story of him, led the people of Israel out of bondage and out of slavery. And I couldn't help but think what a fierce decision that was that those two ladies made. Because at that moment in time, they had a decision to make. Do I follow the order of the king, or do I follow what God has put inside my heart that I know is right? They had a fierce decision. And as I just was thinking about that, I was like, man, that was such a fierce boldness for them to live in their life. And I want to live inside the call of the Lord that He has for me with that kind of fierceness, that fierceness of those two ladies. Their name was Shiphrah and Puah. And those are two names that are kind of hard to say and kind of hard to remember. But I want us to remember today to have boldness like Shiphrah and Puah. So when I was thinking about that, I was thinking, how can I encourage us? What are some tips and tricks that as we live this out, how can we be that? Because I think reality in life is sometimes fear holds us back, insecurities hold us back. Sometimes the mundaneness of our roles in our everyday life and the routine holds us back from chasing and being everything that God has created us to be. So over these next couple of minutes, I want to give us some ways that I believe we can evaluate some things inside of ourselves so that we can run after God with the Shiphrah and Puah type of fierceness inside our life. And the first one is this, is for us to recognize our insecurities. Insecurities are oftentimes something that hides within the shadows of our souls, and they're not something in a 5-minute conversation we can sit down and identify. But I believe with lots of prayer and one-on-one time with the Lord, He can begin to reveal some of those deep-seated insecurities in our life. Sometimes those insecurities root from circumstances or things in your past. But I encourage us, let's identify those things. Let's find what our insecurity points are. Write them down, pray over them, find them. So number one, identify them. And number two is to face our fears. Many times we run from the very things we know we should be doing because we're either afraid of how the situation is going to turn out, we're afraid of what it's going to require of us. In that story, Shipra and Puah, it required them defying direct orders from the king. And I know for me, that would have been a fearful situation. I would have not faced my fears when it came to that. I would have been afraid of what people would have thought of me. I would have been afraid of the consequences. Many times our fears are what hold us back. But in order for us to move forward with fierceness, we have to face those things. Number 3, identify the lie. Many of our fears are built upon the lies that we tell ourselves, that we're not good enough, we're not brave enough, we're not strong enough, we don't have the right tools or the resources. Identify what lies you tell yourselves that help breed our fears. Find those lies, because just like JC, when it comes to her jumping in the pool, the lie she tells herself is that nobody's gonna catch her and she's gonna sink. We know that's not the truth, but in her mind, that's the lie. And many times that's the same thing in our circumstances in life. God knows the lie you tell yourself is not the truth, but we believe it wholeheartedly because we continuously over and over tell ourselves that lie, and it begins to dictate how we act in our lives. So identify it, find out what it is. What lie do you believe about yourself? And number 4, once you identify all those things, it's discover the truth. Discover what God says about us. As many times the lies and the fears and the insecurities are not God's truth. Because God, when He equips you or calls you to something, to be a great wife, a great mother, a great sister, when He calls you to that, He also equips you. He also has given you all the tools and resources and gifts and talents needed to be the best that you can be. Sometimes it's just overcoming all the things I just said, our lies, our fears, our insecurities. Start reading His Word. I encouraged you this the last time, but spend one-on-one time with the Lord daily. That's how we'll begin to be continuously pouring what He says about us into our lives, and then we can begin to hide it in our heart, and that's how we can live our life. Number 5, walk in freedom. Once we do all the 4 steps above, we are able to walk in freedom, knowing that we're free from the pain of the past, we're free from our fears, free from our insecurities, we're free from whatever lies we tell ourselves. And once we begin to walk in that freedom, we can begin to live out a fierce life and a fierce boldness to be everything that God called us and created us to be. And I don't know about you, but that word fierce really is going to stick in my mind for the rest of the week. And I just want to encourage each one of us today. Let's live a fierce life and run after God fiercely in everything that we do. God has called us to so many great things. Our families, our ministries, our businesses, our sisters, our brothers, all the different things we do in our lives, our different hats. God has called us to each one of those. And I know He's called you to make a difference inside each one of those circles you live in. So let's live this out and have a fierce week this week. Thank you for watching this, and happy Mother's Day.